Right.
Okay, you were saying?
Okay, so
What the
before
assistants
Atrium
can do.
begins with, what the assistants can do or co-leads can do to help. So come in, first turn on the hot water, get the water ready for the yeast and the leaven. And then, once you've introduced that, that will be very important. Make sure all the wastewater, beforehand, putting out the folders. Making sure the shelves are all in the right order. So we want to go from least difficulty to most difficult, left to right, top to bottom, for the most part. I mean, we actually have thought about maybe putting dry pouring on the bottom where the little ones can see it, because even that top shelf is almost too high for a 3-year-old to even see. Mm-hmm. So we might switch the dry pouring to the bottom.
Are the shelves
and the water to the top.
Lower all the shelves?
They are adjustable. That is a potential thing that we could do. Yeah.
You may see that change.
Yeah.
But also check that the materials are set up correctly, that there's cloths for the the water pouring, that all the materials are clean, although ideally the previous atrium should have left it clean, but that we leave it clean, because remember I was saying the children, every time they come in, that's setting the expectation. So if they're finding it dirty, their assumption is this is just how we leave it. If they're finding it clean, eventually they'll start pointing out to each other, wait a second, we need to clean it. And that's why I was also making sure I show in the work cycle. It's really important to show how to clean it afterwards, so that you're setting that expectation each time. But to maintain that expectation, you also need to make sure everything's clean as we start.
Also for flower arranging, if there are no flowers available, like somebody just didn't bring them for that day, then putting all that work away so that, are we gonna take the tray off the floor or leave it there and just not have the vase with the flowers?
The vase would not be there.
Okay, so the vase we would take the vase away if there's no flowers in it. And then also, if all the vases are full and there are none that are like wilty and ready to be cleaned up, then we would take the vase away also. But a lot of times they're like, all the vases are used, but that's an opportunity to take the child and say, oh, if you would like to do flower arranging, there are some flowers that are wilty and are ready to be
I would give them
away.
guidelines on that. Yeah. Wilting flowers, yellow or brown edges, dried out mold, no water, things like that. So they have some ideas of what.
And you can teach them, like, these flowers are still good in this vase, but they do need water. They're thirsty, so they can add water to vases.
But also what I'd often do before the atrium, so that if there were flowers available, so that my children had a chance, was before they arrived, I'd maybe consolidate some of the arrangements so that there was 1 or 2 vases available, so that 1 or 2 children could do that.
Did you ladies talk about the doilies as control?
Yeah. Well, we haven't spoken about that, but that's why. Remember, at the end of the flower arranging, although one would talk about that at the beginning, and that's why I was also showing that as one of the first steps in flower arranging is getting the vase and getting the doily, so that if they go to the shelf and find there's no doilies, it's like, if there's no doilies, flower arranging isn't available. And I do that in my atrium last year as well, as they're starting to set up, because normally they would end up getting the doily last. And then while they're still setting up, I'd say, oh, did you get a doily? And they'd say, no. And then they'd go off to get one, and they'd say, there aren't any doilies. I'd say, flower arranging isn't available then.
Yeah, that's a control that we have in our atrium that other places don't have, because we have so many children coming through, and we want to give more opportunities to children in different atrium the opportunity to do flower arranging. We put out 2 doilies for every atrium, every session, until they're all gone. So there's a variety of vases, so they can choose a different vase, but they get 1 or the 2 doilies, and then that work is done for today for that atrium. So when you are setting up for the next group, you would put out 2 doilies for your group until the doilies are gone. So.
And as I was saying, check that the materials are clean and all that type of thing. I'm thinking the polishing materials and all that type of thing. If some of the metal materials are tarnished, please don't do it, because that's taking away from their opportunity to do it. So even during atrium time, and some child is struggling to find something to do, or while you're giving the atrium the altar presentation, you could take it out the pattern and say, what is this? And say, this really does need metal polishing. Maybe somebody can do it.
Other things co-leads and assistants can do is taking kids to the bathroom, but we also recommend sending out an email to your parents beforehand in your welcome email to remind them to take your children to the bathroom before they ever come, because some atriums do, and it just ends up it's one big bathroom break. So it does help. Or if you're done preparing the environment and a child arrives early, take them to the bathroom.
We
So
will
just
have
keep
floaters
that out of the
this
way.
year who will be outside the atrium, floater volunteers that will help with bathroom breaks so that the catechists and assistants can stay in the atrium.
Yeah.
So that'll help alleviate that. But yeah, it would be nicer if we didn't have to do that.
Also, are we still going to have parents in this area, or are we going to have it downstairs? Because for our
I'm working on
atrium,
that, yeah, you've got
because the idea of meeting the children assembling outside before you go into the atrium, part of why I didn't do it was because there was so much happening out in that
Right.
area. It just wasn't an option.
Part of
really
it
to-
depends on what time your atrium is,
Yeah.
because if there's other things going on in the building at the same time, it gets louder.
Yeah.
And, it just depends. So,
Yeah, there's
but
just
yeah, that's
practical
something that
constraints.
I'm
So
gonna
that's something
try
as you're planning how you're going to set up your atrium, and are you going to meet outside or not. On the first day, you can kind of judge how much is happening outside your atrium, about whether you want to have that phase into the atrium or not. So my atrium here, I didn't do the group outside, but at my school, I would actually, in my classroom, have that whole wind down preparation. Are you calm? We're not going into the atrium until it's
Right.
really calm.
And sometimes the
And then
parents don't know it, but they're undermining that.
Oh, gosh.
So I will work on communicating with them, but of course support from you is great and greatly appreciated on the quiet and the privacy and the prayerful nature of the atrium before we even enter it. So hopefully we can get support for them. And if I have to be the heavy and kick people out, I'll work on that charitably.
A few more things that other atrium assistants can.
Yes, this was, I wanted to tie back to the flower arranging really quickly before I forget, because my brain is so flaky. I showed watering the plant with the dropper. I think that's what we decided in the end. You could do, and we were talking about that, having like the popsicle sticks,
Oh.
and then before the atrium begins, you could put the popsicle stick there, and then you could, when you get the presentation, you could say, we look around for the plants, and if there's a popsicle stick in there, then you know. Or you could just say stick, otherwise they may say, oh, popsicles, I love popsicles. If there's a stick in there, then you know that plant needs water, and then you water it, and then you show how you take the popsicle stick out and bring it to the counter, or whatever protocol you want to do. And that way you prevent overwatering, because we want to have living things in the atriums. However, the challenge is either it's drought or
Right.
flood or drought.
Yeah.
Either they're getting too much water because a lot of catechists are worried about it and everyone's watering it, or it doesn't get watered at all and then they die, which is why my daughter's really sad. If I bring